I made, dare I say it, the best sourdough bread, maybe even perfect. But I wanted to do a video, and of course, as soon as the camera came out, I was making all kinds of mistakes, but I was able to turn it around. So I am making a video today how to make sourdough bread and how to navigate any mistakes that you may make along the way. It is redeemable. So let's get started. I'm going to show you how to make the best sourdough bread, and it's going to be so easy. So if you are a beginner, kind of like me, this video is for you. Let's get started. Okay, so the game changer here is going to be your sourdough starter. This is crucial. It will make or break your sourdough bread. Nothing wrong with getting sourdough starter from a friend, but in my experience, I have not had success with that. So please use this sourdough bread starter. You won't regret it. You just do a couple feeds every day and you will get bubbly results like this every single time. So this is sourdough bread that I made yesterday. It came out incredible, and I was so excited. I was like, I'm gonna make more bread and do a video. So in this video, to make it super simple and fuss-free, I'm going to avoid technical terms like hydration and gluten development. I just want it to be easy to follow. I love the way this came out. It's super soft, it's moist, it has that sourdough flavor, lots of holes. This is what you want. And because this is a simple recipe, I am going to keep it very basic. No fancy tools needed except for the scale, if you want to call that fancy. But I think having a kitchen scale is just so important if you bake a lot. So as you're following along in this video, just know that the official recipe is in the description box below, and know that what you're seeing is going to be some user error, but I'm going to show you how I turn it around. So if you're wondering what I'm doing wrong here, I had my kitchen scale on a drying mat. I don't know why I did that instead of just removing the mat and placing the scale on the counter, but it did affect the weight of the flour, which we'll get into in just a second. But as I was so excited about my successful batch of sourdough yesterday, I was a little bit short on my sourdough starter. So I was about 25-30 grams short on my starter. But again, this recipe, it's very forgiving. So I was able to make it work for me. But normally it's 100 grams of starter, and you can see I used most of the starter up. And then after the bake, just go ahead and give it a feed. I just do 2 tablespoons of flour and about 1.5 tablespoons of water for every feed. I don't want to do a bunch of feeds and discards, so I just do enough for what I need. But sometimes it's not enough, so I really could have waited one more day to feed or to bake. But I was just so excited to make this video. So that's probably why I made a lot of mistakes. But as you can see, there's so much flour, and it's supposed to be 475 grams of flour. Now, because the scale was skewed and it was on a mat, it wasn't accurate. So I was just scratching my head the entire time, like, what is different about this recipe? Like, it feels off. And I realized when I took the mat off and I rescaled everything, I was like, oh no, I added in way too much flour. So this is a user error. Again, I should have just taken that silly mat off and did it on the counter, but such is life. You're going to make mistakes. Sourdough doesn't have to be perfect. So what I ended up doing is just added a little bit of water, about 10 grams of water after every stretch and fold to get it a little more hydrated. So you can see right now it's just really dense and heavy and dry. So this is why using a kitchen scale is so important, and I feel so silly for adding in so much flour. And I was thinking, like, well, 475 grams is a lot of flour, but This seems like a lot. So yeah, I probably added about 500 grams or so of flour. But again, we are going to fix it. This is a super simple recipe. You don't have to do much. So every 30 minutes, you just stretch and fold. So I do 3 stretch and folds. So after it comes together, I let it sit for 30 minutes and then I do the first stretch. And then after that, you go ahead and cover it again, set your timer, go about your day, and do a second stretch. So this is my second stretch and fold. So it's not a lot of effort if you're just going to be at home around the house and just, just every 30 minutes. And if it's not every 30 minutes, that's totally fine. This is very easy recipe, very forgiving. So it could be every 45 minutes or every hour, you're basically just giving the dough a chance to rest. And I know I wouldn't use some technical terms, but you're letting the gluten develop, which is important, and it will help add air to your dough. So just don't skip this step. But I would say 3 times is the magic number, and then you are ready to shape your dough and let it do its final rise. So because I added way too much flour, I have enough for 2 loaves, which is totally fine because we love eating sourdough bread in our home. Our toddler twins love sourdough bread and any homemade sourdough bread or any homemade bread. And the second bread is going to one of my good friends who is recovering from surgery. We're going to do a meal train for her in the next couple days. So do your final fold and try to form the dough into a nice ball. You'll see that this sourdough is smooth and plump and easy to shape. It's not sticky. It's not dry. You want your dough to look like this. Then just take some plastic wrap and cover it. I'm using plastic wrap this time so that I can see if it's doubled in size. But before, when you're just doing stretch and folds, just a damp dishcloth is all you need to keep the dough from drying out. So this stage is the final rise. You should look for your dough to double in size. This can take anywhere from 2 hours to 6 hours, just depending on how warm your kitchen is. So what I like to do is just warm up the oven by turning it on like the very lowest setting, just until it's about like 100 degrees or so. And then I turn off the oven and then I put in the bowls and let them rise. So it took about 2 hours for them to double in size, and it is just absolutely beautiful. If you noticed, I didn't use any olive oil for the bowls. You can do that if you like, but there wasn't too much dough on the sides of the bowl. So this is what you want. Do you see those bubbles in the surface? And it should feel really light and fluffy, not heavy or dense. A very soft dough, and that's what you're looking for. You know that it has risen properly. Again, it's maybe a technical term, and I'm trying to keep it simple, but the fermentation process has been successful. But in this recipe, I just want you to focus on what it looks like and don't get too caught up in the terms and stuff, because if you're a beginner and you're starting out, for me, it was just too much information, and I think it just stressed me out and confused me further and made me feel like I could never make sourdough bread again because I was always struggling and my bread was never turning out. And it's actually quite simple, and I don't even want a learning curve because that's just too much wasted time. So I was just so happy to figure out how to do sourdough bread in an easy way. And I hope you can do it too, because sourdough bread is so good and it's so healthy for you. So since I made too much bread, one of my sourdough loaves, as you can see, is just going to bake straight on a sheet pan, and the other is going to go in my Dutch oven. I use this cast iron Dutch oven for all my sourdough breads, and I love the way it turns out. So I kind of like that traditional round size. So once I have it shaped and I put parchment paper down, I just let it rest to develop somewhat of a crust. So maybe like 15 minutes while your oven is preheating to 500 degrees. And again, no fancy equipment. I'm just using a serrated knife. It's a steak knife to score the bread. So this way air can come out during the baking process. And I'm sure there's more technical reasons to why it's important. But one, it's very aesthetically pleasing. It makes your bread cute. And but this is a step that you don't want to miss. So just add some score marks in. You don't need a special razor or knife for this. Just any knife will do to get some marks in your dough. And then I like to drizzle it with some flour. This is optional, but I like the way it looks when it comes out of the oven. It just has a really pretty artisan and authentic look to it. And the flour somehow doesn't burn in the 500-degree temperature, and it just remains white. So first, you are going to bake your bread halfway through. You can remove the lid, so that's what you just saw, so that it can develop this nice golden crust to it. Look at this color. And the nice thing about sourdough bread, it is up to you how you want to design it and make it look, and how many brown marks you want. If you want it like a lighter golden brown like this one, or if you want more dark crust, it's all up to you. Now, you can see on the bottom that it has some cracks or stretch marks, what have you. And I asked ChatGPT, what is this? And it gave me a few reasons why, but don't worry about that. We're not going for perfection here. We're going for taste. We're going for doneness. And this wasn't my perfect batch because I put too much flour in and my scale was off, as I mentioned before, but it still came out despite having not enough starter and putting in too much flour, and it was delicious, just as delicious as my successful batch the day before. So all thanks to this simple sourdough starter, you can make amazing sourdough again and again, week after week, day after day, if you like. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.